The story is nearing its pinnacle, as all of the blood and divine energy at work approaches a darkening of the sun. The very light of Zabraria.
So, after discovering that Aster, Gila, and Gazania were the beasts of the Berg, Grove, and Wilds, with Darkfear Salmix were behind the blood wishes and massacres and all of that, as well as that they were unstoppable as long as the sun was around, and the potential that Arathia was this new mother they had, we and our allies realized we had a few things on our docket. 1, we needed to find a way to separate Arathia from Kesak, the god of sorrow, suffering, and pain. 2, finish getting the last 2 Dawnwood diamonds. And 3, find where the family of blood was keeping their blood dogs.
Since Salmix became the new bull of the Vol Multitude as Dark Fury, he implemented his new status to invite, or force, the Fated Fates to attend a masquerade party in honor of his new title. Darian, as the new bull of the Nerimon Society as their persona Scarlet, told us it was best to go, even if it was most likely a nefarious trap, which it was. But luckily, with the help of Shay's friend Clea and Wash's old pickpocket buddies, Durin and Dwayne, we discovered the blood dogs were being kept in a place called the Dog House in Merkside, being operated by none other than the revived Verano.
And don't forget that Dogma was the one who helped us escape from the trap Salmix and his sisters laid for us.
When we escaped the masquerade, we discussed our next actions. I mentioned how I wanted to go to the doghouse first, since Aster implied they turned my father into a blood beast and I wanted to end his misery. As well as maybe find where the Falso Ivories had fucked off to and get revenge.
As we planned though, Vivica's eye gave us yet another vision, showing us how Salmix, Aster, Gazania, and Gila were when they were young with their original mother sometime in the past. They were normal. Well, as normal as they could have been, being created as basically demons. Salmix seemed less mature than the others, being a toddler when they were seemingly more grown. We couldn't really make out the mother, but we heard her. She seemed wonderful, teaching the children to take only what was needed, having a small prairie farm to satiate their needs non-gluttonously, or as horribly to scale as they were now. Recounting the vision to everyone else, Dogma said he had an idea.
Basically, he said he'd try to find a way to jumpstart another vision through Issa using a few spells, and it worked. The vision from earlier continued as we saw the mother eventually die from, assumedly, old age, before reminding the children that they do not have to succumb to the evil intents they were made with. She made 2 last wishes through Salmix. 1, that his sisters would be satiated, and 2, that in a different life, they could have a normal life. Salmix only consumed enough blood to complete the first wish. However, perhaps being a child and not fully understanding the world or meaning of his mother's words, this ended up petrifying Aster, Gila, and Gazania.
Maybe they were petrified because they couldn't be satiated?
The vision continued in a fast-forwarded-like state as we saw child Salmix sit by his mother's grave and the statues of his sisters until one day a camp of people came upon the graveyard, one of them being Sir Berengar Bart, that priest that began the Tide-Thord religion and who was responsible for the downfall of Ponte.
And the vision seemed to lead there, showing Salmix had been discovered by Berengar and his zealots, discovering he was a creature that consumed blood and used his power to destroy Ponte, just as Fiara had described it happened. Salmix was then an adult, seemingly only days later, but consumed enough blood to wish his sisters back.
With the way that he got that blood, I think it's safe to say that the wishes made from his point of view were twisted, and they seem to have twisted the sisters to be darker versions of themselves when wished back.
We noted that information upon returning to the keep. The Demardas said they'd be heading after one of the 2 remaining diamonds in the Russet Wastes as we prepped to find the doghouse. We teleported to the 8th precinct to look for the pocket entrance.
Yeah, and we found a really cool place called Telestan's Magical Emporium. It had everything: magic items, booze, sex.
Yeah. And Shay found a woman named Tashala who was from the 8th's pocket.
Yes, she was the daughter of the titular father of the pocket known as Father's Den. She gave us passage below as we headed once again past the black lights towards the center of Merkside.
Now, I've never been to Merkside, and that place was scary. No one told me scary ghost monsters like the Wraithmire that we ran into existed. I saw its true form, and Issa, Codex, Wash, Terrence, and Shay saw visions of guilt, apparently. But after that encounter, we rested in an abandoned smithy for the night. Issa found out from an astral planar meeting with Casimir that Arathia was tapping into all of Zabraria's Sending Stones. Shay and Terrence, through Sending Stones, found out that from Ezra that Arathia had hostages of a few people that we knew. Loretta, Sham's sister, Lyra, the leader of the 11th Pocket's Needles Syndicate, who Shay knew, these people called Kuzan and Taran, as well as Terrence's father Kylos, who died by Gazania's claws, but was somehow resurrected?
Yeah, hearing that, we knew after dealing with Verano in the doghouse, Arathia and the Onyx Obscurity were next, which is why Codex started studying the blood claw she swiped after killing Seraphima, thinking maybe a blood wish through that could separate the 2. Finley also thought about how, on the year off, he wasn't able to resurrect his family despite Codex explaining that the emulator said he could. He spoke with Cinnamon, who reminded him that his mother, when casting Ignis Kal Druid rites, had a group of trusted people with her, each representing something: her flame, and then the others: light, shadow, divinity, and chance. The 2 remembered that the woman who stood in a rite for the shadow must have been Shay's mom, so maybe Finley could attempt it again with Shay as shadow and others for the other slots.
For the rest of the night, Wash and I both trauma bonded over our not so great childhoods, mine with my mother being killed by, I guess, Gila, and being transported into the Burg, and his with the false ivories, and their leader Rickard antagonizing his family, stealing his parents, and presumably aiding the family of blood since his father was apparently a blood dog now.
After resting, we continued towards the center of Merkside, where we found the doghouse through the irrigation ways by the rivers. And not only was Verano there, experimenting with a perfected version of Terrence's serum on blood dogs, but so was Rickard, the leader of the Falso Ivories and the guy who fucked up my life. They had their own blood vat, like Balthazar did, and a few dogs with them, one of them being my dad.
The fight wasn't easy, but Verano and Rickard were killed and their experimentation room destroyed. Wash put his father out of his misery, and the ghost of his mother, through Shay, told him how sorry she was that things ended up this way, but told him that she still saw him as a good man and a hero to people who needed it.
Dogma, Yolena, and Hal found us down there and helped teleport us back to our keep, where the Demartas had also returned from their journey. They had the other diamond procured and kept in the russet waste for safekeeping, and were ready to plan an infiltration on the Onyx Obscurity to stop Arathia, discover if she was the new mother figure for Salmex and his sisters, as well as get the final diamond to wish the fair father trapped for a time to weaken the family without the son over Zabraria.
Before we planned, I talked with Shay to see if she could help me try my resurrection rite if we went to Doshan Moor sometime. She said yes, which was great, and then catching up with the Demartas, I discovered that Balthazar basically did the whole let me destroy Zabraria thing because of his late wife, Levette Bart, King Gale's aunt, who was assassinated by bulls who didn't like how outspoken she was. Anyways, long story short, she was a paladin of the fair father, and when Arathia taught Balthazar blood wish magic, he first tried to bring her back, but instead of it doing that, the wish just gave him her paladin magic. So, he told me he could fill the role of divinity for the ride.
The Demartas gathered the six of us, Sham, Maud, and Ezra to plan. What we came up with was basically barge in with Sham and Maud, entertain whatever scheme Arathia had, procure blood for Seraphima's gauntlet to use in a blood wish, and get the diamond. Sham was coming for his sister Loretta, and Maud had a secret up her sleeve that the Demartas knew and just told us to go with, because apparently Arathia knew nothing of Maud, and last time she was there with Connie, she wasn't able to use her weird magic to suss any information out of her. So yeah, we did that. We walked right up to the gates of the Onyx Obscurity and just went in.
When we walked in, we saw Arathia standing with the Children of Blood. She sent them away before asking Kessak to begin. He started siphoning the life out of us, but we were saved by some quick thinking by Finley, appealing to Arathia as a woman who loves a good game.
Finley offered for us all to ante up things she would only be able to obtain by winning her own game, choosing himself to go first, offering up the ancient secrets of the Ignis Cal Druids, his people. Arathia accepted this and explained that we would, all together, need to make it to the center of the maze of her own creation where she was holding the diamond.
Once we all fell into the maze, we were separated into groups. I landed with Issa and Cinnamon, Codex with Maud and Shay, and Wash with Terrence, Shaman V2. We all used our different abilities to navigate the maze until coming upon familiarly shaped holes in each wall that directly outlined each of us.
After coming out of these holes, we were led into rooms that felt like some kind of interrogation, where Arathia asked us each personalized questions that led to all of us making hypothetical choices that might impact us later. Once all of our choices were made, we reconvened to talk about them.
Which the majority of us were open about.
And I said to trust me, and look at that. We're all fine because we trusted each other and worked together. Good job, us.
Right, anyways, I guess it's not a spoiler, but eventually following Cinnamon's diamond tracking, we made it to the center of the maze where Arathia was holding her hostages and the diamond. Now that the game was almost over, she told us a prize for winning against her would be a diamond and the 5 people she had. For the fight, all of our choices came into full effect. A fight with a woman tied to a greater god, and we're all weakened. Yay.
But with teamwork and a little bit of Revivify for Codex, we were able to get Arathia down enough for Fiara to... Wait, what? Where did Maud go? Fiara?
I didn't really get a chance to see where she went either, bud. But using the blood we gathered and the gauntlet Codex took from Seraphima, Fiara was able to make a wish to separate Kessak from Arathia. Knowing she was defeated, Arathia yielded, meaning that we won the game. But I guess the prize wasn't as gilded for all of us.
Sorry, buddy. After defeating her, though, Arathia gave us the diamond and the hostages. We all ran in to get our prizes, and unfortunately for Terrence, Kylos was the only captive to not fully be returned to life. As we collected our victories and mended our losses, we headed to where we would keep Arathia for questioning.
We met with all of our allies as we discussed next steps. Here too, Fiara explained that she and her brothers found out that they had divine blocking powers like Rush and Willow from the Russet Waste. Apparently, they too were descendants from people there. But during this, Fiara noticed Balthazar unconscious outside the cell block we had Arathia in. Upon running out, some of us ran to Arathia's cell while others stayed outside to watch as the Children of Blood stood on the rooftops.
Once we got to the cell, what we saw was absolutely... Oh god.
We saw the completely charred corpse of Arathia. Her hand was covering the spell that would hide us from the family if we ever needed to run. Shay used to speak with Dead to learn more information, but even in death, Arathia was not helpful and was just as bitchy as she was in life.
After learning all that I could, we reconvened once more to just rest on all of the new information we received. Codex comforted Fiara, and Terrence shared feelings with Ezra. Almost all of the feelings.
The real takeaway is that I feel better now. And hey, then Issa's dad called and summoned us to talk with Amnestria, and we went to the Arlight Altar, the holy capital of Sobraria, where Issa told Pontiff Amnestria, King Gil, and Archbishop Virus Ozzel everything. Filter off. I mean everything we had seen and learned up until this point, including the threat of the Children of Blood. And I'm not gonna lie, the look Virus was giving us when we talked about the kids, yikes.
But as Amnestria started walking towards us, Vivica's eye activated, showing us the first-hand perspective of someone walking down the hallway to Arathia. But the vision felt like it was being overpowered by something else as we looked up at Amnestria. She shifted between herself and a darker version of herself as the vision showed her pointing out Arathia's flaw of threatening her children? Oh, and Issa just did that, didn't she?
Yup. And then her kids appeared out of nowhere. Amnestria cut off the head of the Archbishop, told Gazania to kill Issa, and when Elena pushed Issa and Salvador out of the way, she got her arm cut off.
And then Amnestria turned to King Gil, started implying she would blame us for the Archbishop's death, and then did blame us for pushing her and her children to this point of violence as she began to cast this large sphere of sunlight to hit us with.
Yeah, and it's really bright. Cover your eyes, guys!
If you want more specific details on this chapter, check out this playlist to get episode-by-episode recaps from every member of the Fated Fates.